Rock Band. I love it, you love it, that dusty corner of your house loves it. Now, while the world likely understands what these two words in this exact order mean, I'll give some real quick context for the children with unsupervised internet access. Rock Band is a series of rhythm games first released in 2007 by Harmonix. You play with plastic instrument controllers that allow you to hit notes coming down towards you. Do good and you'll get a good score. Do bad and, well, at least McDonald's is still hiring. And as the name implies, you don't gotta fail alone. With up to 6 other people, you can have a band that sucks 7 times as hard. It's like a glory hole, sucking's better in numbers, playing on controllers that make it feel like you're in a band. It's a very simple game and concept, right? Maybe on the surface, but just like with any popular media franchise, lying underneath is a storied history full of many things you may or may not know. Some things cool, some things funny, and some things darker than you could ever possibly imagine. This, my friends, is the Rock Band Iceberg. But not just any iceberg, no siree. The ultimate iceberg. A compilation of 2 huge icebergs found on Reddit, along with several of my own additions, the ultimate Rock Band Iceberg is sure to have many things you may or may not know about your favorite drunk party game. Now, we have almost 200 entries here, so I'm not going to waste any more time with this introduction and instead going to push us on towards our first tier. Hope you're not afraid of heights because we're heading straight to the skies with Tier 1. Things you almost certainly know about Rock Band. Alright, let's put this iceberg in the drive. Overdrive! Yeah, tough crowd. Whatever, but when you're playing songs, certain sets of notes will be highlighted in white. Hitting all the notes in this set will add to the player's overdrive meter. If you earn enough overdrive, tilt your guitar or press the designated button to activate overdrive, which doubles your point multiplier and gives the note highway a healthy case of jaundice. It's not exactly necessary to use, you can go the entire song without it, but if you're aiming for high scores, mastering how and when to use it in a song is a necessity. Tour mode. Tour mode is basically the career mode that Rock Band offers, and pretty much what it comes down to is you play in a band and you play a bunch of songs and sets and you progress from playing in small venues to basically headlining giant arenas, which I don't know if that's actually realistic to the band experience in real life. Because I'm pretty sure you don't go from playing like Jerry's Pizza downtown to being the main act at the Sphere in Las Vegas, at least in the span of like 10 hours or so. Bass groove. Bass players are unique in that they have the ability to reach an up to 6 times multiplier, which will put them into a bass groove and turn their note highway blue. It's a purely aesthetic feature and does not affect the gameplay in any other way besides awarding the bassist more points. It does work as a nice distraction for bassists though, taking some of the sting out of the fact that they need to strum the same string ad nauseum for only 15 more songs on the party set list before they get to go home. Big rock endings. You know how some rock songs end with the musicians just utterly demolishing their instruments in a frenzied state of rock possession? Well, Rock Band mimics this through big rock endings. When you encounter a big rock ending, the lanes on the highway all light up to their respective fret color with no notes in sight, just you, a score counter, and a chance to partake in some hand-obliterating rock shenanigans. Strum and fret to your heart's content. And at the end of it, you hit one last note to complete that big rock ending. Make sure you don't miss it though, or else you're really gonna let down everybody. Everyone except the crickets. Stratocaster solo buttons. Rock Band guitars have another tinier set of 5 frets higher on the neck that let you tap out solos without the need to strum. It's not necessary to use, but switching over while playing a song does add a bit to the immersion. You can also use these frets for regular playing as well if you ever so desire, but I don't know why anyone would other than to be known as the guy that plays every song like 20 octaves higher. That's not how you play Black Sabbath. Guitar Effects Switch. Among other fancy little buttons and doodads, Rock Band guitars have what is called an effect switch. What this lets you do is cycle between different types of sound effects for when you activate overdrive or enter a guitar solo, ranging from wah wah, echo, and chorus. Real Stratocasters actually do have this switch, but it's not nearly as cool as its plastic counterpart. 1 point to Rock Band, 0 points to learning a live skill that could actually be pretty useful. Crowd sing-alongs. Sometimes when you're playing really well during a song, the audience watching you will begin to sing along at certain points. It's a really cool feature and honestly gets me excited when I hear it, but understandably and unfortunately, it's not included on every song, even songs on disc. But Harmonix was smart and chose the best possible songs to add this feature to. Songs like We Will Rock You, Say It Ain't So, Ghostbusters, anthems that everyone knows. Those are the kinds of songs that got the treatment, and while it's a shame it isn't featured on every song, being able to hear the audience sing those crowd pleasers makes it that much more sweeter. Band in a Box Bundle. With each release of a mainline Rock Band game, or unless you're the Beatles, a big expensive pack featuring most of the essential equipment needed to get started with the game is dropped alongside it. These are called Band in a Box bundles. They came with a Stratocaster, a basic drum set, a microphone, and, of course, the game. Other official bundles of varying sizes and qualities existed, but these were the head honchos of the pack. No pun intended. These were the ones you would see at your local Best Buy, stacked up all the way to the ceiling, calling to you, urging you to give into plastic waste temptation. You could, of course, purchase the game standalone and your instrument of choice, but if you're wanting to get the most out of your Rock Band experience from the get-go, these bundles were the way to go. Instruments are game agnostic. This is just referring to the fact that Rock Band's instruments will work with other games, such as Guitar Hero and Rock Revolution, if you remember that. It goes the other way too, with practically every instrument on the planet, even Power Gig's Menace to Society, working with Harmonix's games. It's not a big deal and probably something most parents and kids would expect, but considering that these are games by rival studios, it is a very neat thing to point out. More options and accessibility is always welcome because it lets even more people play your games or just play with the controller they feel most comfortable with. Unless you're using the Power Gig one. The Beatles Rock Band. Coming together by way of Beatles-related music corporation, Apple Corps, band members or estates of the members, and other important individuals who were involved with the Beatles, Harmonix developed a standalone game featuring music from and only from the band. It was called the Beatles Rock Band. No. And was released on September 9th, 2009, the same day Apple released brand new remasters of the band's discography. The game could best be described as a big celebration of the band, chronicling their small Liverpool beginnings to creating some of the most influential studio albums of all time, all while filling it to the brim with as much fan service as possible. It's a different beast from the other titles, mainly in terms of presentation. Cleaner, happier, trippier, and just full of so many little touches that make it stand out from not just Rock Band, but every other rhythm game on the market, except for maybe Power Gig. It even introduced 3-part harmonies, which honestly, I could not think of a better game to start it out with. This game, I love it so much. I won't go so far to say that it changed my life, but it introduced me to the Beatles and helped to cultivate my music taste. If we were ever to get a remaster of any Rock Band game, I'd love 3, but I'd have to say this game is more deserving because it's not only a great game, but it's a great way to experience music from a band like the Beatles. Also, I missed the DLC the first time around, so please include that in the remaster. Please, please, oh please, come on, please! Exports, a very sore point for me. The Rock Band games and track packs, with the exception of the game we were just talking about, Beatles Rock Band, allowed a user to bring songs from previous games to newer games for a small fee. Some songs aren't included due to licensing restrictions, but most of the game's set lists are left intact, surprisingly enough. Rock Band 3 has all of its songs in its export, like what? Awesome feature, right? Well, put an asterisk right after awesome. Unfortunately, these game exports have an expiration date, and as of the expiration of Rock Band 3's export in December 2020, no games can be exported any longer. outside of the occasional track pack that are just insanely expensive and hard to find. Something so beautiful was never meant to last, it seems. Green Day Rock Band. A standalone title based solely around the American punk rock, alt-rock, band, Green Day. It follows the band on their journey from humble, dookie-filled beginnings to their infamous breakdown of the 21st century. I don't really know too much about the band, so I can't go crazy like how I did with the Beatles Rock Band, but, it's cool, I guess. I like American Idiot. Does that make me an American idiot? It came in 2 editions, Standard and a Plus edition, which included some more songs as well as a DLC code to export the game's soundtrack to later titles. Still Alive. Still Alive is the ending theme for Portal, a video game created by Valve Software, creators of many cool things such as Steam, and the Steam Deck, and Steam Link, and I'm pretty sure Gabe Newell probably created the concept of Steam as we know it, I'm not sure. The song was composed by Jonathan Colton, a veteran of the rock band scene, and sung by GLaDOS, the antagonist of the game. It was made available as DLC for Rock Band and is likely to reside within the libraries of every player you come across online because it was free. And what a banger of a song to make free, right? 12-year-old me survived on this as my only DLC. Breakneck Speed is an optional toggle that allows the user to speed up the note highway, which, while it can look incredibly intimidating at first, can make it easier for the player by spreading the notes out and making it a little bit more easier to parse through whatever this mess is. Oh, that's better. In 2, which it was introduced in, it's a simple toggle, 1 speed, and that's it. But in later games, it's much more granular, allowing you to increase the speed to your liking. I don't usually use it that often, I mean, look at me. But I will admit, for some songs, it does make a difference since not all of the notes are just scrunched together like usual. Now, if only there was a toggle that can make it easier for me to play the game. Oh yeah, that's right. Track packs. We actually touched upon this a little bit during the exports one, but along with downloadable content, Harmonix also released smaller standalone Rock Band titles with the moniker track packs. These were compilations of previously released songs or sometimes brand new songs yet to be released, usually with a theme of sorts, country, classic rock, metal, put together on a disc and released to stores. For those without internet or with consoles like the PS2 where internet connection exists, but not how we usually think of it, the track packs make a lot of sense. For PS3 and 360, less so. But take into account that these track packs include export codes with no expiration dates and can sometimes have impossible to get songs like Snow Hey-Oh on them. Then, that's when they become a little bit more tantalizing to get, especially brand new. Here we are, Fortnite Festival. In 2021, Harmonix was acquired by Epic Games to help out with Fortnite and its various musical events that they'd have in-game, eventually culminating in a new mode in 2023 called Fortnite Festival. What it is basically a simplified version of Rock Band that you can play on your keyboard or controller with a daily rotating list of songs to choose from. And there's quite the variety of songs. There are so many popular tracks available, it's insane. I didn't see this kind of treatment for Rock Band for what? DLC is still a thing, but it's totally separate from Rock Band, so unfortunately you gotta buy everything all over again. Which, honestly, not the biggest deal. It's possible to get by with just the rotating songs and whatever free songs Epic gives out. And at $5 a song, yeah, I think I'm fine playing the Fortnite theme over and over again. Despite its DLC setbacks, it's a fine game and one I'd recommend you try out, especially if you're a Rock Band or rhythm game fan in general. Alright, and we had to tackle it eventually, but let's talk about the instrument shortage. Since Rock Band requires the use of proprietary hardware, things like the guitars and drum sets can become harder and harder to find as time goes on. The only time that newer instruments are ever produced are when a new entry is released, which, last time I checked was like maybe about 9 years ago? Other than that, your best bets are the secondhand market or just learning the instrument for realsies. But screw learning a life skill because Fortnite's here to rot your brain. Let's talk about the Riffmaster now. With the release of Fortnite Festival, Harmonix announced their intention to release a new guitar for the mode, which is this. the Riffmaster, an instrument made for Fortnite Festival but totally usable as a guitar for Rock Band 4. Features-wise, it is practically the same as 4's Strat, but with a foldable design, an analog stick, headphone jack, and a copyright-friendly design. Yeah, it's a shame Harmonix and Epic decided against continuing their partnership with Fender for Festival, but it's not a bad design, and it really fits well with the Fortnite aesthetic of just being as wacky as possible. According to accounts, there can be the occasional defect, so be careful when you get one, and have fun. Next is the white drum set. The Wii version of Rock Band 1 was released a little bit after the original release for PS3 and Xbox 360, and to sweeten the pot and make this version feel a bit more worth the wait, Harmonix included an exclusive white version of the drum set, just for the Nintendo fans. While I'm more of a classy black kind of dude, I must admit I kind of dig the way this drum set looks. It's charming. It blends in with a lot of the other Wii peripherals and makes it feel more official, you know what I mean? Looks like my Wii Zapper has a friend! Too bad Harmonix didn't stick with this design for the sequels, opting for the typical drum set color scheme of the other consoles. Something something uniformity, something something easy to bulk manufacture. Rock Band 4 Rivals is an expansion pack for Rock Band 4 which adds upon the vanilla game in a few new ways, namely the Rivals mode. This is a mode where you and your band can compete in various prompts and events set up by Harmonix, fighting for the highest score and stats against the rest of the world. These would come in seasons, much like other live service games, so you'd best get your scores up before the season ends, mister! Along with this mode and a few other things that were added, several dozen songs were added in future updates, if you had this expansion. So Rival practically replaced the original release and is pretty much the new standard for Rock Band 4, so if you don't got it, you're truly missing out. Thankfully, Harmonix will put it on sale quite a bit, so for those who didn't have it, that was an easy way for them to get it, and actually as of this recording, it's free for everybody, and we'll get to that eventually. Pre-rendered performances, and don't worry PS3 and Xbox 360 players, this doesn't apply to you. This only applies to all the PS2 versions of the games and the Wii versions of 1 and the track packs. Considering your main focus will be on the song you're playing, it isn't too big of a deal these versions don't have real-time graphics in the background. But you do lose out a little bit on the magic that comes with playing Rock Band. There's some people out there who will never be able to experience the fun and creativity that comes with making yourself as a rocker in these games. Choosing your favorite instrument and perfecting it, and then going out there and losing yourself to the all too familiar fantasy of being in a rock band that makes waves all around the world, if even for just one moment. I'm playing as Peter Griffin in a band comprised of SpongeBob SquarePants, Inugami Korone, and former President Barack Obama. And now the final entry for this tier, and it's not as big of a doozy as you may think it is. Guitar Hero was made by Harmonix. Now, before Rock Band was ever on the radar, Harmonix dabbled in making other rhythm games. They made a lot, and it's pretty much their wheelhouse. It's what they do. They made games like Frequency, Amplitude, and of course, one such game was Guitar Hero. Yes, that's right. Harmonix did indeed make their own competitor to their Rock Band series. Now, this is common knowledge at this point. Back then, it was a huge talking point, but now I'm pretty sure most infants are born with this innately, like some sort of survival instinct. But it is still a very interesting factoid, so I still felt that it was worth keeping on the iceberg. And with that final entry, we are now done with Tier 1. So how about we take a break from flying in the air and let's come back down to Earth and hang out on Tier 2, the surface. Now, starting us out with Tier 2 is probably one of my favorite entries in the iceberg. It's the keyboard. Harmonix added a fifth instrument into the series' formula, the keyboard. First teased at the end of Green Day Rock Band's demo. With this instrument, you'll play things like piano, synth, brass, flutes, basically almost any of the other fun miscellaneous instruments that are included in a song. And you play them all with a brand new hunk of plastic just waiting to take up space in your room. Check this thing out. This is the official Rock Band keyboard controller, and it looks amazing. It looks great, feels great, tastes a little weird, but I kinda chalk it up to being a decade old. And you'll notice it's not a keyboard. It's more of a keytar sort of shape with an optional strap if standing while playing's your thing. Or a stand could be purchased separately if sitting while playing's your thing. There's 26 keys, ivory and ebony included, making this thing true to life. A touch bar for whamming, and an overdrive button if tilting really isn't your thing. And you play these keys with these 5 ivory keys, similar to guitar and bass. But what about the other 21 keys? That's a mighty waste to add those if they're only being used for looks, right? Well, have I got a doozy for you? You know how I was joking about how learning a life skill is for losers? Well, guess what? You're the loser learning life skills now. Introducing Pro Instruments! What the f***? Rock Band 3 not only expanded its instrument roster, but added on to the already existing ones with a new mode. Pro Mode is Harmonix's effort to blur the lines between real and fake rock and roll. And whoa, come on, stop, man, the line is almost gone! And they're blurring it with these new instruments made to handle the task. Guitar, play actual chords and notes on real strings and frets. Keyboard, play actual chords and notes on real keyboard keys. Bass, thank the powers above that your instrument's finally interesting. Drums, which are basically the same, but 3 cymbals have been thrown into the charts. On every song dating back to Rock Band 1? What? This is the coolest feature to ever be introduced into Rock Band, and it is an absolute shame it didn't last past Rock Band 3 besides the Pro drums. My assumption is because of how much time and effort it takes to chart Pro keys, guitar, and bass, especially for guitar and bass. Harmonix only gave those Pro charts to 1, maybe even 2 songs tops per weekly DLC. It was that much of a strenuous effort. So, it was a necessary sacrifice for Rock Band 4 to be able to come out, at least in a timely manner. It's just a shame we lost an entire instrument and one with big potential. So I spoke about Rock Band 3's Pro modes, but I never really dived into just how complex this mode can get. That's where this entry comes in. Enter the MIDI Pro adapter. This little box right here that you definitely do not want to search up on eBay opens up a whole world of musical possibilities. With this, you can connect MIDI-compatible keyboards and electronic drum kits to use them as a controller for their respective game instruments. The adapter has a controller on it for navigation, a slider for drumhead sensitivity, and a switch to change between keyboard, drums, and of course, guitar. Also, random note, but this thing is covered in like this weird rubber that I believe went off like as the years went by. And now when you touch it, it's got like this weird sticky residue that gets stuck to your fingers, and just all around it's a horrible experience. And I actually had some toilet paper covering this entire controller, so that way whenever I used it I didn't have to deal with this. But since I was recording it, I wanted to be presentable, so I had to take it all off, and now I'm experiencing it all over again, and it's activating some sort of fight or flight in my brain, and I just gotta get rid. I can't handle it anymore. The Squier Pro Guitar. The big daddy of Rock Band's Pro mode, the Squier Pro Guitar is the ultimate blurring of the lines between plastic and real playing. A real, honest-to-goodness guitar with strings, frets, wood, and specially created innards to make communicating with the game possible. Finished playing and want to try out what you just learned? Just remove the MIDI cable and plug it into the amp and rock out for realsies. It sounds better in game. This is an anomaly. It feels like it really shouldn't exist, like, at all. I mean, it's an official Fender guitar. That's primary selling point is that it's a video game controller. Would it be ironic to be classically trained on this? Yes, it's a big deal, but it isn't the first time this has happened. We wish it was. But Harmonix was the first to actually pull it off successfully, making their vision for Rock Band 3 a reality. To create a game that lets one play as casually or as professionally as they want. And if they're not professional, they can become one. All they need is the game, a dream, and a controller unlike anything we've ever seen. Almost unlike anything we've ever seen. And this next entry, while it still has the moniker of Pro, really has nothing to do with the Pro instruments from Rock Band 3. Pro Lead and Pro Bass are the new modes that were introduced to Fortnite Festival alongside the release of the Riffmaster, and all the modes really are are just guitar and bass from the Rock Band games. That's it. Because with Fortnite Festival, when you're playing with the controller or keyboard, it's simplified so that way you don't have to worry about things like strumming. But with Pro Lead and Pro Bass, that is just thrown out the window and we are regressed back to just regular Rock Band playing. It's literally the exact same thing. You're not special, Fortnite. I see you using the word pro. That word ain't for you. Freestyle guitar solos. Introduced in Rock Band 4, freestyle guitar solos is a mode that changes the solos of some songs to be an empty canvas for the player to shred to their heart's desires. Play what you want, and the radder it is, the more points you get and the better it sounds. Playing would make guitar noises that match with the song in pitch and tone, and it's really cool. This was a widely supported feature at the start, but was basically axed, no pun intended, since it was likely not a popular one. Which is a shame. It's probably the most customization you could get in that game because we're not getting it in the character creator, that's for certain. Oh! Rocky Drama. With the Rivals DLC for Rock Band 4, a new mode called Rocky Drama was introduced. It acts like a sort of story mode with live-action actors in a quasi-documentary film VH1 behind-the-scenes sort of thing. I haven't seen much of it since I actually don't play Rock Band 4 that much, but it seems pretty cheesy. Which is okay. I like cheese, and I like Rock Band, so putting the two together seems like a great idea. Rock Band Blitz, a standalone title made by Harmonix harkening back to their earlier Frequency days by being a simpler rhythm game using only a controller. All DLC up to Rock Band 3 is compatible and even had its own set list with some actually really good songs. Like, way too good. Why was this a spin-off? This is the Lego Rock Band situation all over again. It's not the same Rock Band experience, but it's truly a solid game. It's perfect if you don't want to take out the instruments. That's what I used it for mainly. Next, we have Rock Band Rewinds. As time goes on and the exports for certain games expire, newer players or players just late to exporting would likely yearn to be able to play specific songs featured in older games. This would not go unnoticed by Harmonix. During the Rock Band 4 era, they remedied this with the introduction of Rock Band Rewinds. Rock Band Rewinds are songs handpicked from past games to be relicensed and released onto the music store for everyone to download. Sure, it isn't the perfect solution for this situation as it's only certain songs and not the entire track list being relicensed, but I guess it's better than nothing. I mean, hey, I get the chance to download f***ing Chop Suey. I am not complaining anytime soon. LEGO Rock Band Restrictions. Since LEGO Rock Band is an E10 rated baby game made for tiny little stinky babies, some restrictions had to be placed upon the music store so no kids can download frickin' Slayer and rock out with their block out. So to protect the children and their virgin ears, you can only download songs from the music store that have been rated as family friendly. Common sense, but man, that's a lot of songs that are being excluded from use in the game. And what? For what reason? Just because there's two references to hard or how you can Sir Psycho Snoop Dogg? It's not that bad. Children hear way worse on the internet. Brutal Mode. In a Rock Band 4 update, a new feature was added to the game called Brutal Mode. This edition really lives up to its name in that not only is it a mode, it's also brutal as all hell. Brutal Mode basically turns Rock Band into the Dark Souls of plastic instrument rhythm games. The notes on the highway disappear the closer they get to where you're supposed to hit them. The better you do in the song, the earlier the notes disappear. And when you gold star a song in this mode, you get the coveted Crimson Stars, Rock Band's equivalent to the Purple Heart. Brutal Mode, with its punishing gameplay, adds a heap of seasoning to the meat of Rock Band's gameplay that a lot of hardcore fans were probably looking for. I tried this mode only once, and I gotta say, it truly lives up to the name Brutal. I played it on one of the easiest songs I could think of, Clocks by Coldplay, and it was made a million times more difficult by that mode. I was looking at the clock the entire time, just waiting for the song to end. And when it did, I didn't feel any satisfaction afterwards. I was just glad I survived. Big rock endings and songs without big rock endings. While playing certain songs, you may notice they end very differently compared to their original album or single releases. Not like a typical edited ending to avoid the songs fading out. I mean how some songs end with a big rock ending, despite not having such an ending in their original versions. This was common during the Rock Band 1 era, with a lot of on-disc songs having newly recorded finales to showcase the big rock ending feature. Sometimes it would fit really well, like with Foreplay, Long Time, and Black Hole Sun, And other times it wouldn't, like with Paranoid, where you could feel the awkwardness of how forced the ending was. And that one was a cover, so they literally had no excuse for it to sound that bad. It's not a creative decision I dislike. In fact, I find it quite novel, and I appreciate how much Harmonix tries to make it sound like the original song, ending like that. But I could see it probably taking a few people out of the moment when it happens, because they're like, "That's not my song, I don't remember it ending like that at all. Why did I turn into an announcer from the 40s? Anyways, on to the next entry, kiddos." Rock Band Network. During the Rock Band 2 era, Harmonix introduced the Rock Band Network for Xbox 360 and PS3, a way for independent companies or individuals to easily create and publish songs to Rock Band, practically giving the game a potential for unlimited content, as well as chances for smaller indie bands to get their own DLC. The network was expanded upon for Rock Band 3, allowing for Harmonix, Pro Drums, as well as Pro Keyboard support. Rock Band 4 was also destined to get its own version of the network, but plans fell through and, well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Eric Cartman's Poker Face. Alongside Lady Gaga's cover, Poker Face, sung by Eric Cartman of South Park fame, was released to the store, probably just to f*** with everyone.
I don't give a crap about whales, so go and hug a tree.
The game itself was actually included in an episode of South Park, with Cartman and his other friends playing, I forgot their names. Anyways, they were playing and Cartman was singing Poker Face, and that's likely what led to the song's inclusion on the store. PDP adapter. I'm assuming it's about the Xbox One wired legacy adapter, which allows users to play Rock Band 4 with wired Xbox instruments. It's really, really rare, and I think the only wired instruments for Xbox came with Rock Band 1, and the thing only has one connection? Damn. Is it worth taking out a mortgage that only lets you play on one instrument that likely has sticky frets or loud drum heads that can wake up countries on the other side of the world? For some people, apparently yes, and those people are inhuman and scare me, and I'm gonna go hide in my hole now so that way I never have to see such horrors beyond my comprehension. Freestyle vocals. So this was an option that was introduced in Rock Band 4 alongside freestyle guitar solos. It's just a bit more obscure, so that's why I put it a little lower on the iceberg. Basically, freestyle vocals allow you as a solo vocalist to sing on pitches that are not the exact pitch of the singer of the song, but fit with the key of that song in that exact moment. And just like freestyle guitar solos, it's only available on songs that have guitar solos. I know, it sounds totally crazy and makes no sense whatsoever that two instruments that have nothing to do with each other would correlate in such a way, but I'm assuming it uses data from the guitar solos that allow you to like play on pitch with the song, and uses it instead as a bass line for what keys you could sing during a song. It's a really, really fun toggle to flip on and allows you to put a lot of your personality into a song while you're singing, which playing on regular vocals will never allow you to do. And for those chasing high scores, doing freestyle vocals actually nets you more points. I'm assuming because it's a bit more difficult to just wing it and sing on a random pitch that has nothing to do with the main vocals of the song. Whatever the case, it's a really fun mode, and the footage you see here is one of the only few times I've ever actually tried it. So after doing so, I think I might actually go back and try doing freestyle vocals some more instead of singing on Harmonix. Charlene. Charlene, I'm Right Behind You was a song by the band Stephen and the Colberts, which, if you couldn't tell, was fronted by Stephen Colbert. While the date the song dropped was admittedly entertaining to see, the price certainly isn't anything to laugh at. Free! Toss this one in the pile of songs you know even your third cousin living on a farm in Iowa will have. God damn, and god damn can Harmonix be a bit inconsistent for what they censor in Rock Band songs. One such inconsistency is god damn. For some songs it may be cut, but for others it might still be there. It could be for context, could be the way it's said, no one really knows. But one thing's for certain, Harmonix really doesn't know how they should feel about taking the Lord's name in vain. Maybe they're agnostic? Archer collab. Okay, for some reason in Rock Band 4, Harmonix and the animated TV show Archer joined forces, culminating in the titular character appearing in the game as a playable band member. I've never really seen the show, but I will say I do like how Archer looks in-game. The cel-shadedness is very charming and close to how he actually appears in the show. Someone should make him play Danger Zone. The Ion Drum Rocker. In the Rock Band 2 era, alongside the usual drum set Harmonix released, another more robust drum set was dropped. The Alesis? This drum set was released, and it is the dictionary definition of excess. Featuring a wacky electronic drum frame, 3 cymbals, which weren't even fully supported at the time, and a whole-ass drum brain. While totally unnecessary, it was truly the holy grail of Rock Band accessories at the time. I thought it was cool. Of course, if I had one, I never would have intended to use this thing to its fullest extent, no siree, but I would have loved this. Not my mom's wallet, though. Rock Band Unplugged. The first ever portable version of Rock Band Unplugged was released for the PlayStation Portable, developed by Backbone and Harmonix. It was made in a similar vein as Harmonix's previous games, Amplitude and Frequency, where the player uses the PSP's buttons instead to perform. Ain't no guitar shredding happening in my backseat! Despite being, as to be expected, scaled back for the portable market, the one thing that wasn't scaled back was its content. Since the PSP had online connectivity, this gave the game the opportunity to have its own music store, where players could buy more songs to add onto the game's 41-track set list. Not much DLC was made, but really you're mostly going to be playing this when you're stuck at the DMV. Leave the 1,000 tracks at home, dude. So before we get to the next entry, I ask that we please avert the eyes and ears of our fellow bassists, because this one's gonna hurt. There was no bass on solo tour mode. In Rock Band 1, there was a career mode called Tour Mode. If you wanted to play alone, you were only allowed to use 3 instruments, either guitar, vocals, or drums. Yeah, for some reason, Harmonix decided that bass was not worth making a career mode for, and they eventually ended up remedying that with Rock Band 2, but I have no idea what they were thinking, because it would have added like way more replay value, as if we needed more replay value with a game like Rock Band. But yeah, riots happened, mobs stormed the offices of Harmonix, and they eventually learned their lesson and will never mess with us bassists ever again. Metallica. Your dad's favorite classic rock band has quite the history with the game series, and it's one that has very little to do with Rock Band. The band had songs on Rock Band 1 and 2, Enter Sandman and Battery respectively. Then they had a 3-pack DLC released the same day as Rock Band 1, which included Ride the Lightning and Justice for All and Blackened. Then after that, nothing. The DLC pack was taken down 6 years after being added. 1 and 2's Metallica songs were never made available for export to future games. So what's up with the elusiveness? Well, the reason for that is 3 little words. Guitar Hero Metallica. Oh, and also licensing. While I'm not gonna go on a witch hunt and blame everything on Activision, even though there's many things I'd like to blame on them, my carpal tunnel being one, the existence of Guitar Hero Metallica probably didn't make things easier for Harmonix alongside the band's licensing costs. There might be a contract there forbidding Metallica from getting in bed with other developers because, come on, 16 years? You're telling me Rock Band couldn't get anything in those 16 years? Rock Band 4 I may understand. They were struggling. We all were. But things get a little curious when all it takes is over 1 decade before Metallica gets back on board with Rock Band. Maybe a contract needed to expire. Or maybe you just needed Fortnite money. Yes, they're back in Fortnite, and with a whole ass battle pass dedicated to them. It took an entire TikTok user's life, but we finally did it, fellas. The boys are back. And goddamn my hands.
Adjust glasses. It's Rock Band, not Pop Band.
This is a common complaint and infamous quote brought up by members of the community, sometimes unironically, about the inclusion of more mainstream, popular songs making it into Rock Band. Think your Lady Gagas, your Justin Biebers, your Burzums. They're pop garbage, not rock. Bands like that don't have a place in Rock Band, right? Where's all the 70s and 80s rock songs that filled the top 100 charts at the time? The songs that I know. You can't appeal to a wider demographic because I'm supposed to be your demographic. You have to appeal to me. Why are you taking a gun out of your pocket? And finally, we end this tier with the ultimate entry on this iceberg. Awesomeness detection.
Do you think you're rad? Think you're cool? Think you're awesome at Rock Band? Well, there's a way to detect if you're right.
Just flick on awesomeness detection in the settings and prove you got what it takes to hang with the big boys. What does it do, you're wondering? If you really were awesome, why do you need me to tell you? Unless you really weren't as awesome as you were saying. I knew it. Well, as an awesome person myself, I guess I can let you in on what awesomeness detection does, and it does nothing. Yeah, literally nothing. It's just the setting put into the games by Harmonix to mess around with people. The only thing it changes is whether the switch is on or off in the settings. There's theories as to what it could do, such as decrease hit times for notes or enable debug settings or unlock a crazy mode that you can only enter with a button combination, but it's been confirmed many times by employees that nothing happens. Anything you might feel when you switch it on or off is just a placebo effect. Fucking around with your game community. Now that's awesome. And with that entry, that is the end of Tier 2. Now we've been through the skies, we've touched down onto the surface, and all of that has been great, but if we want to find more information, we have to go deeper, past the surface. Now, I'm pretty sure you know where we're going next, so I'm gonna ask you ahead of time that you hold your breath as we dive down to Tier 3, the start of the bottom of the iceberg, and where the iceberg truly begins. It may be dark, and it may be a little scary, but don't worry, I'll guide you through this. Now, let's start this tier with our first entry, Harmonix Bands. Wait a second, that's not dark or scary. Harmonix is not only a company full of game developers, but it's also a company full of musicians. Some games included songs from some of their bands in their setlist or as DLC. Freeze Pop, Bang Camaro, That Handsome Devil are just a few of the bands, and man, they're all pretty good. I can see why they included themselves on there. Alternate lyrics. Ooh, we're getting somewhere spicy right now. Rock Band, being a T-rated game in a world filled with endless amounts of popular non-T-rated songs, might find it a little hard to include popular hits that might just be a bit too dirty for the ESRB. Many songs in the game have had to get a soap in the mouth before they were able to set foot in Rock Band. Some used clean versions, while others were edited by Harmonix themselves. Whatever it took to get the songs on the game, they did it. And yeah, it sucks it has to be this way, but it's probably better than the alternative of not having the song on there at all. Unless we're talking about Sir Psycho Sexy, where they just cut out like half of the vocals. At that point, they should have just left the song out or make their own vocals or something. SpongeBob DLC. Where's Squidward DLC? DLC featuring songs from everyone's favorite sentient sponge was released for Rock Band with a total of 7 songs altogether from Mr. Bob himself, including hits such as The Best Day Ever and Where's Gary. Unfortunately, there was no Sweet Victory released as DLC, but considering SpongeBob wasn't a one-time DLC drop, maybe we might see it come down the line. Alright, we're gonna get a bit more technical with these next 2 entries, starting with stemless songs. These are songs which do not have any separate audio tracks for the 4 instruments, likely because master tracks for the songs are not available. It's very, very, very rare to come across songs like these because Harmonix tries to get stems whenever they can, but when you do come across one, it's really uncanny. Feels like I paid $2 for a Clone Hero custom song. And since I talked about what happens when there's no effort put into the stems of a DLC song, let's talk about what happens when there is some effort put into them. DIY stems. Who would have thought that 3 little letters can put the fear of God in you? This is when a song has instrument stems literally ripped out from the MP3 file of the track.
Via the magic of audio editing.
Results can vary. Sometimes they sound okay, sometimes they, well, I probably would have preferred if it was just stemless, but hey, the effort is appreciated. Thanks for doing what you can, Harmonix. Rock Band Network Rewinds, basically a rehash of Rock Band Rewinds, but instead of an official DLC song, it's a song from the Rock Band Network, made available for play in Rock Band 4. These were usually the songs that were most popular or most requested from the community, so don't expect your brother's friend's uncle's band that played one time in 1983 to show up. And due to licensing restrictions, Rock Band Network Rewinds are considered separate DLC from their earlier Rock Band 2 and 3 counterparts, meaning they must be purchased again for Rock Band 4. Fun stuff. Fallout collab, hey, this is something that's pretty topical. In 2015, Harmonix and Bethesda did the unthinkable and collaborated, and somehow the world is still standing. Fallout clothing was released to promote the recent entry in the Fallout series, Fallout 4. Deck your band out in some slick-looking Vault 111 jumpsuits. Battle of the Bands, a mode in Rock Band 2 that allowed players to go head-to-head with others in challenges created by Harmonix. They varied from things like get the highest score on this song or get the most stars in this set list. Beat the score of someone else and protect your spot. Challenges were updated quite frequently, some lasting up to a month, some lasting less than a day. I didn't dabble much with it since I didn't have a constant source of Xbox Live and didn't have any friends, but it looked kinda fun. Red Hot Chili Peppers D-lists. Red Hot Chili Peppers, that one band that did a song for the Beavis and Butthead movie and literally nothing else, well, they were a band that had quite the presence on Rock Band, on disc, and DLC. Keyword had. The Chili Peppers were hit very hard by the D-list hammer, having all of their songs removed, including almost all of their album Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Just one song remains of that album as of this video's posting. Give It Away. And that was a song that was re-released alongside Rock Band Blitz, so I don't even know if I'd count that.
Curse you, Harmonix! Put Daddy California on there as a Rock Band rewind and my life is yours!
More Muse. Something that can probably be agreed on by most of the community is that the thirst for Muse is real and unquenched. Likely one of the most requested bands for Rock Band, Muse has only ever appeared once in the series, with their song Hysteria being released as DLC way back in 2007. Over 15 years and still no Muse. At this point, Harmonix might be just trolling us for the hell of it, and we may never get another song from Muse. Is what the people that made this Iceberg a few years back were probably thinking, because on August 30th, 2022, the Harmonix gang announced that the band would finally grace the series once again with 3 songs as DLC, including Knights of Sidonia, famous from its appearance in Guitar Hero 3. Hope you enjoyed the DLC, Muse fans, because it might take another 15 years or so until you get some more. Full album DLC. Some albums were released as DLC in their entirety. The albums released were ones that held some significance in music history or were just really popular, like No Doubt's singles album, Nirvana's Nevermind, and 3 Beatles albums. Despite that, these releases were very rare, likely due to it being a huge endeavor and a risky one too, since singles have wider appeal. These were for the hardcore fans of the band, as well as the hardcore fans that likely existed in Harmonix, who I'm pretty sure fought tooth and nail to get these albums in there. American Pie. American Pie was the final DLC released for Rock Band during the Rock Band 3 era. It marked the end of 6 long, healthy years of weekly DLC from Harmonix. And what a way to end it. An 8-minute song about the deaths of some of music's biggest names at the time really helped sum up all the feelings fans and even Harmonix must have had at this moment in time. The rhythm game craze had died down. Guitar Hero and its DLCs were already long gone, and Rock Band was the only one left standing. Until they couldn't stand anymore. And with their final breath, they let out not a cry of fear, but one of happiness. It may be the end, but let us celebrate, not just Rock Band, but the genre as a whole, before we lay to rest. Then we all know what happened after that. I Still Believe, the song that signaled that not all dead things stay dead, at least for Harmonix. Randomly out of nowhere in March 2015, I Still Believe by Frank Turner was released for Rock Band 3 for the low price of poverty, a song to signify that Rock Band was making a comeback and weekly DLC would be returning alongside it, starting with this song that's not only free, but fun. Last Resort demo version. For Papa Roach's magnum opus, Last Resort, Harmonix had to make do with the demo recording of the song as the version we all know and meme just wasn't available. While getting a different version of a song can be interesting and exciting, for some songs, especially ones that are as popular as Last Resort, it can feel just wrong. And Harmonix must have felt the same way because with Rock Band 4, the song was changed up ever so slightly, finer tuning for the mix, and a brand new intro that fits a little bit more with the version that we all know and love. While it still isn't the studio version, it's a much welcome improvement for the song. It certainly doesn't make me want to cut my life into pieces now. Wave Group is a group of waves. No. A company that created music mainly for use in video games. In the Rock Band 1 era, Harmonix tasked them with creating covers of songs where using a master track was not possible or just way too expensive, like Paranoid or Greengrass and High Tides. Past Rock Band 1, though, their services were no longer needed, with Harmonix using only master tracks from then on. I honestly prefer it that way, but some covers that they made, like My Sharona, were absolutely killer. Killer enough to get a freaking Pro Guitar update. Alright, anyways, wave bye to the group now, everyone. Say bye, bye! Fleetwood Mac delists. Much in the same manner as the Chili Peppers, Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks' solo songs were also victim to the dreaded delist plague, being wiped off the face of storefronts, never to be experienced again. You could say that, this ain't a dream, this is a nightmare. Endless set list, the optional grand finale of nearly every Rock Band game. Play every song in the game in one long set list. Now, it doesn't sound like much at first, but when you stop to think about it, these game soundtracks can start in the 50-song range and only go up from there, meaning this endeavor can last from 6 to up to 8 hours. And it may not sound like it's worth it, but when you defeat the endless set list, you can sometimes get something cool out of it, like an achievement or a funny little icon for your instrument you use during the set list. I pissed my pants for this? Rock Band VR, a spin-off created for the PC, focusing on using virtual reality to make the player feel like they're playing on stage. Think Guitar Hero Live, but not live, not Guitar Hero, and not bad. The gameplay was different, getting rid of charts and letting the player play along to the music and being scored by how close they were to the song. Kinda like freestyle guitar solos, but instead of the solos, it's the entire song. But a more traditional chart mode is included as well. Also, it was guitar only, so I take back what I said about it not being Guitar Hero. Rock Band 4 PC? Back in the year 2016, Harmonix made the announcement that they would be bringing over Rock Band 4 to PCs, a first for the series. However, extra funds were needed, so the company enlisted the help of Fig, a crowdfunding platform, in order to help secure funds to port the game over. The port would of course make it possible for PC players to finally get a piece of the console rhythm gaming pie. Officially. No more frets on fire for us. But it would also come with a slew of other PC enhancements, such as keyboard and mouse support for the menus, and a way to easily make custom songs. Yes, with the PC release of Rock Band 4, Harmonix was planning on beginning a whole new era of Rock Band Network, with full integration into Steam to allow for easy sharing of user-created songs. Sounds great. Rock Band gets another shot in the arm on a new platform and even more features than its console counterparts, with maybe even a potential for more instruments being produced to coincide with the release. But alas, some things just aren't meant to be, with the $1.5 million goal not being reached, falling a little over halfway the mark. And with that, the game never made it to PC, and so far there are no plans to bring it to the platform. There's hope that maybe with Epic's backing, another chance at a port could happen, but for now, rhythm game fans will have to make do with alternatives like Clone Hero or Frets on Fire or something else. Wonder what? The next entry is for— I'm just kidding, it's Yarg. Yarg is not yellow alternate reality game. It's not the thing that pirates say all the time. It's not even an anagram for Gary. It's a fan-made game that was created to bring the Rock Band experience to PCs. If you're familiar with Clone Hero, it's the same thing as that. Basically, you add songs to a folder and you can play them in a style very reminiscent of the series we all know and love. Besides having that same vibe as Rock Band, it's also doing its best to bring over all the features across the series, such as vocals, keyboards, pro modes, and a whole host of other features. It's constantly being worked on and updated, so keep an eye out for it. Just understand it's a fan-driven effort, so while they're making big strides, those strides will take time. Absolutely worth it though. Where Epic fails, the fans succeed.
Nobody is more passionate, creative, or innovative than the PC modding community.
All instrument mode. Rock Band 3, as we talked about earlier, has a total of 5 instruments, 7 if you count harmonies. 7 players. Imagine the size of that living room. Well, due to the console controller limitations at the time, you cannot play with every instrument at the same time. Normally, that's where all instruments mode comes in. This toggle, when switched on, allows all instruments to be played at once. Vocals are enabled automatically, freeing up a controller slot for another instrument to join. Everyone gets to play. No one has to be left out of your 7-person rock band party now. The bassist probably wouldn't mind though. Paul Blarp. This is very random and something that I find myself remembering at the weirdest of times, like when I'm playing Rock Band Unplugged at the DMV, is that the series made an appearance in Paul Blart I have a hard time saying Paul Blart Mall Cop normally, ever since I saw that Red Letter Media video. Anyways, yeah. The series made an appearance in Paul Blart Mall Cop. I didn't watch the movie, do not get me wrong, I will eventually get around to watching this beautiful masterpiece someday in my life. Rock Band's Fortnite cameo. While Fortnite Festival is largely separate from the Rock Band franchise, there are still small traces of the series inside of the new mode. Things like the overdrive mechanic and the general design of the lane highway are all carried over from the games, but there's one big piece of Rock Band DNA that was included, likely by accident. Tucked away in the tutorial for Festival is the instrument icons we all know and love. Some flipped for some godforsaken reason, I don't know why, but how this got past Epic is beyond me. It's the very first part of the tutorial, the first thing some people see even. Though I am sorry to tell you that as of the Metallica update, this little Easter egg was removed, likely due to the fact that the icons contain unlicensed use of Fender's guitar headstocks. And that's a big no-no in the legal world. Realistic mode. The Beatles were a pretty big band. No joke, just a statement. And their concerts were the epitome of such popularity. Venues packed to the brim with audience numbers that dwarfed the populations of small cities. These audiences were loud. So loud, in fact, that members of the Beatles were quoted as saying they couldn't even hear themselves playing over the shrieks of the damned.
Here are the Beatles!
In the Beatles Rock Band, the audience is louder than the other games to represent that little factoid. But did you know that you can make them louder? By switching on the hilariously named realistic mode in the options, you too can experience how the Fab Four lost their hearing. The game even warns you about how it drowns out the music. And it's Fab! Whip It Kung Fu Fighting album arts. The songs Whip It by Devo and Kung Fu Fighting by Carl Douglas are notable for having in-game album artwork that does not correlate with their out-game album artwork. In the case of Whip It, it's just a picture of the band. In Kung Fu Fighting's case, nothing. The reason why these songs don't have the correct album art is strange, considering the originals for both aren't even vulgar or lewd or anything. Do you see any lewdness? Do you see a Hosho Marine on here? I don't. It's a mystery. One that Harmonix needs to shed some light on because, dear Lord, I cannot stop thinking about them along with Paul Blart.
So alive!
Now, speaking of album art changes, let's move on to our next entry in the tier. For certain album covers, Harmonix chose to change them, usually due to things like either vulgarity, violence, or, usually, nudity. Take for example Moontan by Golden Earring. It's honestly not that bad, but the guys at the ESRB melt at the sight of a tit, so Harmonix just axed the album cover altogether, in favor of nothing, yet again. Ghostbusters also had no album until Rock Band 4 when it actually got its album art added back in. How much does that ghost cost? I ain't afraid of no ghost, but I'm certainly afraid of Atomic Bohemian Like You. These two were Rock Band Network songs. Not much I could discern from this entry other than the fact that the two were pretty popular songs from big bands, and considering Rock Band Network was more for smaller bands, seemed somewhat out of place. Something notable, however, is that Atomic was priced at $3, making it even more expensive than officially released DLC. That is insane! And yet they're all, help small businesses, blah blah blah, I'm the Beatles. Maybe it's safe to assume Bohemian Like You was priced similarly? I'm not sure. Okay, so I did like a 3-second Google search and apparently, yes, it did cost $3 as well. Come on, man, it's insane, that price. I say that even though Fortnite Festival is selling songs for $5 a pop, but back then, come on. Neil Cicierega, known more commonly on lay internet as Lemon Demon, is a musician and content creator who was incredibly popular in the early YouTube and Newgrounds days for things like Ultimate Showdown, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of younger people watching this that didn't grow up during that period, but for y'all, Pause the video, search up Ultimate Showdown on YouTube, and prepare for the time of your life. At risk of sounding like an old person, I just have to say it, that was peak internet. What's more peak internet is the ultimate orgy. Anyway, sorry. Lemon Demon and his songs make appearances on the Rock Band Network, where you can download a re-record of the Ultimate Showdown, as well as his other big hit, Brody Quest. Ho Hey! In 2019, Harmonix released a Rivals Spotlight preview pic containing a song that was not confirmed to be DLC at that point, the song in question being Ho Hey by the Lumineers. Of course, considering the only song we had by the band at the time was Gloria, everyone was confused. Riots occurred, conspiracies were fueled, and I'm pretty sure someone at Harmonix was fired. But really, it was just a mistake someone made while creating the announcement. But imagine though? Checking setlist. Once again, this is another entry that I'm not too sure about, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna try and make sure that there's not that many of these entries that I'm not, well informed about. But anyways, I'm gonna assume that this one's talking about the troubles that come with an ever-growing DLC library. The larger your DLC library gets, the longer it takes for the game to load up your library, leading to what I can only assume is this two-worded phrase you'd likely see. Supposedly, it might be a thing of the past with the next-gen systems and their fast N2 SSDs, which speed up setlist loading tremendously.
That is mostly wrong, meat sack. What checking setlist actually is a bug in Rock Band 4 that can occur during online quick play. There's not much info on the internet besides people complaining about it, but to sum it up, it makes creating a setlist take forever. There can be many reasons that it may occur, but luckily, it looks like the bug has been fixed. I'm sorry about the Microsoft Sam voice. I was too lazy to bring out my microphone to record this, and I'll take any excuse to not have to hear my voice while editing. Anyways, let me make it up to you with some cool helicopter noises.
Through the Fire and Flames and Operation Ground and Pound recharts. For the Rock Band 4 versions of Through the Fire and Flames and Operation Ground and Pound, Harmonix decided to make a few adjustments to the charts in order to refine them, make them better, so to speak. They're mostly small, minute changes, blink and you'll miss them kind of stuff, like changing one part near the end of Through the Fire and Flames. Regardless, the changes they made ended up making the songs harder. Harmonix, please, we love you, please, we love our fingers, have mercy! I have early onset arthritis because of these songs in Guitar Hero. Now our final entry for Tier 3, and it's a pretty big one because this is a game. This is Rock Band Japan. Rock Band is a series that doesn't really have any footprint in the East, specifically Japan. No game from the series had ever released in good old Nippon, which is crazy considering the popularity of rhythm games in the country. A total missed opportunity, right? Well, that's something that Harmonix noticed too. A long time ago, the developer revealed that they were going to be partnering up with Q Entertainment, the developers famous for games such as Rez and Every Extend Extra, to create a new version of Rock Band tailored specifically for the Japanese market, creatively titled Rock Band Japan. It would feature songs from popular Japanese bands and would absolutely gel well with the ever-growing market of rhythm games. But the project never came to be. Conflicts such as music licensing, instruments taking up space in Japanese homes, and the consensus that Japanese people tended to be quieter when at home were just some of the few roadblocks Harmonix ran into when working on the title, and so the game never came to be. And as far as I know, there wasn't really anything that came of it. Some people say there were title screens that were floating around that looked just like Rock Band 2's, but I don't know. I feel like if anything, they were probably just like fan-made title screens or just mock-ups or something like that. I don't think anything came from this, other than the fact that it was announced. What a shame. It would have been a really interesting game to see actually take off and probably grow the brand Rock Band even further than here in America. You win this round, Guitar Freaks and Drum Mania. You win this round. And with that entry, we are now done with Tier 3. Let us dive further to Tier 4, where things get a bit more obscure, but you might have picked up on these if you were just hanging around in the community. And starting us out with one that I'm pretty sure most people in the community know, the sock mod. Ah yes, the sock mod. So, the drum set that was released for the original Rock Band wasn't perfect. It was louder than a jackhammer, had an umbilical cord, and worst of all, some drum sets just didn't work. Now, our drum set was fine, but other users weren't as fortunate. Some drum sets would have heads that wouldn't register hits, register more than once, register as another head other than the one you hit, along with other potential issues. It was a mess. There were many homemade remedies to fix the drums, but none were quite as well known and practiced as the sock mod. Wrap some long socks around the drums, secure them with some rubber bands, some tape, and if you did it right, the drum should be magically fixed.
Through the power of ingenuity.
It wasn't perfect. I mean, of course, you had freaking footwear attached to your instrument, but for a quick remedy, you couldn't find anything better, besides opening the sucker up. Pepsi DLC. There was a promotion way back in 2008 where specially marked bottles of Pepsi would have codes for DLC on the bottle cap. You take that code, go to the website for the promotion, type it in, and boom! Free LC, though not necessarily free since you had to buy a likely $2.50 soda beforehand. But semantics, you got a free DLC with your soda, no big deal. Snoop's Upside Your Head. This Snoop Dogg song was delisted pretty early on in its life since being released, lasting probably less than a year on the music store. Sorry. The other songs by Snoop still remain on the store, so what gives? Some record label shenanery that led to specifically that one and only song to get pulled? Who knows, but I'm glad that they didn't take down Drop It Like It's Hot or Sensual Seduction. Those are probably my favorite Snoop Dogg songs. I know, surface level stuff. But yeah, Rock Band DLC can be kinda weird like that. Generally, licenses last much longer than that, but there can be some cases where some songs get delisted much quicker, despite the fact that it may have been added to the store alongside some other songs on the same day. AC/DC Live Rock Band. A standalone track pack featuring exclusively AC/DC songs was released in 2008 sometime after Rock Band 2's release, which also had an AC/DC track, Let There Be Rock. The songs were pulled from a 1990 concert by the band, and like other track packs, they are exportable to the other games to play there. It's okay. I mean, if you're an AC/DC fan, I could see you getting something out of it, but if you're not, then it's really not something that you should be wasting your time with. Unless you just want to fill out your song library. The main takeaway though is that this track pack was exclusive to Walmart due to a deal the band and the store struck before this release where the only place you could get AC/DC merch, including this game, was Walmart. By the way, does anyone else still see these things hanging in stores? I swear, nearly every Walmart I've been to has had that one stray copy of the game, and it's always been the PS2 version, still being sold for like $40. Give it up, Walmart! No one's gonna buy that! Just give it to me. Jimmy Buffett re-recordings. Margaritaville resident and self-declared cheeseburger Jimmy Buffett was made available as DLC, but instead of master tracks, we received brand new recordings of Margaritaville, Cheeseburger in Paradise, and Volcano, made exclusively for Rock Band. And they're very good too, maybe even better than the originals. Also unrelated, but Jimmy Buffett's DLC was also released alongside Disturbed's DLC, which is just funny to imagine them in concert together. Disturbed would obviously be the opener. And also, while I'm here, I may as well add on to this entry and say that Jimmy Buffett is not the only person to make a special version of their songs for Rock Band. There's many other cases where versions of songs released for the game were either re-recordings, a version that's never been heard or was unreleased to the public, or just something else entirely. Like, take for example Snoop Dogg, who we talked about earlier. Some of his songs that were released for DLC were actually rearranged with new instruments like guitar, bass, and drums. Yeah, some artists actually went really hard for Rock Band DLC, and it makes sense because this was a big game at the time. So a lot of people wanted to, get in and cash in on that. Rock Band 1 Wii bonus songs. An albino drum set isn't the only thing the Wii has going for it. When Rock Band 1 was released for the Wii, DLC on the Wii, WiiLC if you will, was not a thing, so the song store was left out. In order to make up for this neutered version, Harmonix included 5 extra songs that were previously released as DLC. These right here. Pretty good stuff, but really only 5? At the very least, make it 6, Harmonix, don't be greedy. Pack exclusive songs. DLC songs are released as individual singles or sometimes bundled in song packs. but occasionally some songs are included only in a pack. It's a very weird practice, and as far as I know, it doesn't happen often. The only DLC off the top of my head at the moment that I know handled it like this was Bark at the Moon and Mama I'm Coming Home by Ozzy Osbourne. Oh, and the full-length version of 2112 by Rush. Which makes sense because if you're willing to buy all of 2112's songs put together in a pack, then you'd probably be the person willing to play the entirety of 2112 in a single sitting. Rock Band 3 DS version. Rock Band 3, as you probably know, was released on PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii, but also Nintendo DS, a console known for being smaller than a guitar, so gameplay was adapted to the buttons and looks to play very similarly to the DS version of LEGO Rock Band, as well as Rock Band Unplugged. The soundtrack was also cut down from over 80 songs to 25. That is a 55-song difference right there. Never played it, but I like Unplugged, so this one should be just as good, right? Unless I have an undiscovered allergy to the number 25. Silver Sun Pickups D-List. A band I don't know anything about, but I'll pretend that I do so I can impress people with knowledge that I lack. 4 of their songs were made available as DLC, but have since been delisted, and since Rock Band 2's export has also been delisted, all of the band's songs are no longer available.
Wrong again, meat sack. If you keep this up, you might be next to have your job taken in the inevitable AI apocalypse. Anyways, only 2 of the 4 songs were ever delisted. Curiously, the delisted songs were released more recently than the other 2, 2010 compared to 2008. I'm not sure of any other reason why this is on the iceberg. Maybe because it is a band that is on disc? I don't know. Sorry for having to butt in again. Here are some more cool helicopter noises.
Frame rate test. This is development content that was left on the disc for the Beatles' Rock Band. What it basically is a song that tests the frame rate. I don't know. How does it do it? I'm not sure, but its existence confirms it was capable enough to do so, I'm assuming. The song has the Beatles' cover of rock and roll music playing in the background, which is not a song you could play on disc or as DLC, and the instrument charts are just a bunch of gobbledygook. Likely stuff that helped test the frame rate out, or I don't know, maybe some sort of seance ritual that would bring back the fallen members of the Beatles if you FC the song. Great Balls of Fire. Musician and famed cousin lover Jerry Lee Lewis makes an appearance on the Rock Band network with his hit song Great Balls of Fire, a truly unique choice for the network. Not exactly sure why this is on the list, but it could be because how old the song is. 1957. However, even if it's not really what one pictures when they think of the series, there's one important thing that people forget about, and that is it was released during the Rock Band 3 era, meaning full-ass keyboard support, and this song is the perfect use for it. It's so much fun to play, especially on Pro Keys, which practically turns the game into Jerry Lee Lewis Simulator. Just light your keyboard on fire, marry your underage cousin, and you got the full experience. Drive Week, a very unusual entry. Back in 2012, Drive by the band Incubus was released as the usual weekly DLC, but unlike the usual, it was the only DLC that was released for that week. At the very least, its 2 songs were released, but for that one faithful week in 2012, those 7 days belonged to the Incubus fans. Hence, Drive Week. It doesn't happen often, but multiple Drive Weeks have happened, such as Subdivisions by Rush Week and Old Town Road by Lil Nas X Week. Maps, Grand Canyon, Church Bells. Maps by Maroon 5, Grand Canyon by The Wind and Wave, and Church Bells by Carrie Underwood. These are 3 songs on the Rock Band VR setlist, and were supposedly headed to Rock Band 4 as DLC. According to a leak, icons and listings were there and everything, but they disappeared. Eventually, Grand Canyon would release as December 2021 DLC, but the other 2 are still exclusive to VR. A fate worse than delisting. Meow Mode. Back on April Fool's 2016, Harmonix released a video demonstrating a new mode for Rock Band 4 dubbed Meow Mode. It featured gameplay of Duck and Cover's Knock 'Em Down, the main vocals replaced with cats meowing in the background, which usually shows your band rocking, showing numerous cats singing and looking at you with an unbreaking, stone-cold, deathly stare. It's a cute little joke and really takes me back to those earlier internet days with Nyan Cat and Keyboard Cat. Oh, by the way, Keyboard Cat is in Rock Band 3. One of my own little additions to the iceberg. Literally the moment I wrote down Keyboard Cat for the previous entry, I remembered that our much beloved furry pianist is actually featured in Rock Band, although it's pretty hidden. In one of the pro keyboard tutorials for Rock Band 3, one of the little practice songs the game gives you is very similar to Keyboard Cat, just faster. There's even a roar from some big cat in it, and when you slow it down in game, yeah. Mr. Brightside's mix. In Rock Band, the Killer's hit song Mr. Brightside has a slightly different mix in-game. When comparing the version used in-game to the version you normally hear when you're engaging in mid to late 2000s nostalgia trips, some differences can be discerned. The main one being the drums at the start having a less heavy filter on them, as well as the placement and volume of some instruments. Also, it's kinda busted too in a way. So at the start, when the song transitions out of the heavy filter on the drums and vocals, the song kinda cuts out. I can't explain it, but it's a very noticeable error, and every video I've seen of the song has it, which leads me to believe that Harmonix just borked the mix. Scott Pilgrim's bass shirt. In Edgar Wright's film adaptation of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the titular dickhead wears a red shirt bearing the iconic bass icon featured in the Rock Band games. The movie and the graphic novels it's based on are very video game inspired, so it's a fitting inclusion. And as far as my research takes me, this was a shirt made exclusively for the movie, and it shows. It's really classy, unlike those rad gamer shirts you'd find at a Walmart or whatever, like this one I actually owned in middle school. Yeah, I didn't have that many friends. Rock Band stage kit. Finally, some good f***ing food here. This was an interesting bit of kit released alongside Rock Band 2. For their sophomore effort, Harmonix were probably feeling brave and wanted to see just how crazy they can get with peripherals before someone had to step in and say, get help. Enter the Rock Band stage kit. Now, what is this? It's not an instrument, that's for certain. There aren't that many black rectangle players out there. What it is an experience. Place it somewhere in your room, connect it to your Xbox, pick a song, any song, and watch the magic. A light and fog machine that go in time with the music. Absolutely unnecessary, but absolutely rad! Way more rad than those t-shirts I used to buy in middle school. I haven't experienced it in person, but I've seen videos, and it looks like a really great way to immerse yourself in the music. It worked with every game past 2, but once Rock Band 4 came out to bring the series back to its roots, Harmonix unfortunately dropped support for the stage kit. A moment of silence, please, for the MVP of awesome Rock Band parties everywhere. Teenage Dirtbag, a song by Wheatus and probably one of the single most requested songs in all of Rock Band history, dating back before the very first game even released. There have been countless attempts to bring this song into the game, all failing because of one reason or another, which is a shame because the band, or at least a member of the band, really enjoys the series. Once, this was a part of the on-disc setlist for Rock Band 1. This fell through, and plans were made once again to get the song into the game via Rock Band Network, with a newly recorded version specifically for the game. It was fully charted and ready to go, but didn't make it in due to label shenanigans. With Rock Band 4, however, things started to get serious, and eventually, after a decade of attempts, a new 2020 re-recording of Teenage Dirtbag finally made it in. Not as Rock Band Network DLC, but as a full-fledged release from Harmonix. Honestly, such a nice way to end such a long story. Wooden Stratocasters, and no, I'm not talking about the actual instruments. In 2009, Harmonix, Fender, and Mad Catz teamed up to release full-scale wooden replica controllers of the Fender Stratocaster for the Xbox 360. I never owned one, and with a price like that, I'd have to have saved up a ton of lunch money for it. $300. But for that price, you would have received the best of the best. Reviews and accounts of those who owned and used the device said it felt amazing and practically impossible to return to a regular plastic guitar. But don't even worry about your standards getting crushed because it's practically impossible to find one of these out in the wild nowadays. The price of plastic instruments is already bad enough. Can you imagine one of these? Every organ in your body probably wouldn't even be able to cover it. Figure It Out Dream Genie Guitar Chart.
Guess who just messed up again? It really seems like Wolf 397 just gave up at the end, and now Daddy has to pick up the pieces. Anyways, the creator of one of the icebergs that included this said the reason they're on there is because Harmonix charted bass to guitar with them, which is certainly quite an oddity. Unfortunately, no helicopter noises this time, since Wolf397 wants to talk about Dream Genie's infamous guitar chart.
These songs, at least for Dream Genie that I could find, have some annoying guitar charts that can make F-sing and even getting a respectable high score on them pretty annoying. As a beginner expert guitar player, I can tell you that from my lack of experience that these guitar charts do look pretty funky, but shouldn't be too horrible for a seasoned player to FC. Just make sure to give your hand a break every now and then. Rock Band Mobile / Reloaded. Rock Band Mobile and Reloaded are spin-off games released for the App Store on iOS. They're not really like Rock Band Unplugged or the DS Rock Band games, instead they're just like a mobilized version of the games. Choose an instrument and play, but instead of using instruments, you just touch the screen. I mean, there's no buttons on an iPhone, so what the hell else are you supposed to do? Press the power button? Well, I mean, for a game like this, it'd probably be the best thing that you can do. But yes, touch screen controls, making some on-the-go rocking possible. Except for vocals, where you actually are supposed to sing the songs using the device's microphone. Which is awesome, I like that. Though, I can imagine it being an incredibly difficult instrument to play in this version because not only do you have to have great singing skills, you also need to have balls of steel when you have to sing Painkiller in the middle of a busy checkout line. Fortnite Festival's hidden charts. Despite Festival not having instrument support at launch, deep in the files for every song was not only control charts, but instrument charts for everything besides vocals. The Riffmaster's release was something they have certainly planned for a while, and the presence of pro drum charts means that they're planning even further into the future. Will we get drum support? Will PDP make a new drum set for Fortnite Festival? Will you get fucked over by the prices on the secondhand market? I don't know, am I human? You should say yes. And now we've come to the final entry in Tier 4. The Death of Rock Band 2. With the release of Fortnite Festival in December 2023, things were looking very uncertain. This new game, which is obviously Harmonix and especially Epic's priority, had people wondering about where Rock Band 4 fits in the grand scheme of things. Fortnite is gigantic and dwarves even many of gaming's biggest names, so people were justifiably worried about the state of the little rhythm game that could. Festival is practically the same as Rock Band, but in Fortnite's much more popular ecosystem. Is there no longer a need for the original? Just 1 month later, in January 2024, it was announced that Rock Band was once again being taken out behind the barn and having its weekly DLC support killed. To commemorate, 2 weeks of songs were released to bring this era to a close. There were 5 songs. The songs released in the first week were Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John and Our Love Will Still Be There by the Trogs. The final week played us out with Wherever You Will Go by The Calling, Thank You by Dido, and Send Me On My Way by Rusted Root. All songs certainly fitting of the theme of saying goodbye, but for some reason, it all felt off. This is where I'm going to take a more likely biased observation of the situation, but trust me, I'll make it quick. There are 2 things that bother me more than they should with Rock Band's Second Death. And the first is the selection. Now don't get me wrong, these are all great tracks, and it shows that even in the very end, Harmonix was willing to pay the big bucks for people like Elton John to appear, but comparing these 5 songs to the singular song released for Rock Band 3's death, the finality is trivialized. There's quantity this time around, which is great, but with that, it felt bloated and more like an excuse to just put out as many songs as possible before Harmonix was forced back into the Fortnite mines. American Pie was precise. It perfectly fit the theme of the situation more than these 5 great songs ever could. Because not only was the music dying, but our video game was too. It's totally unfair to compare like this because honestly, nothing could ever outdo American Pie. So allow me to switch to my final point of this wasn't the end. With the end of Rock Band 3's DLC, that was it. there was nothing left to look forward to as a player and likely as Harmonix. Our baby was gone and there was nothing we could do to replace it. But we didn't want to. This was the end of an era, but we wanted to celebrate. There was so much more to Rock Band 3's farewell in terms of build-up. For one, the end was announced like a month beforehand compared to the week or so that Rock Band 4 got. There was a stream of employees and fans gathered in a theater, having fun playing the game before revealing the final DLC. A retrospective of the series was released on the day of the DLC's release, a heart-wrenching final farewell on Harmonix's side as they look towards the future. So much love was poured into the end of 3 that when you look over at 4, you can't help but feel a little betrayed. All you got were the final week of songs and a blog post that pretty much just tells you to go play Fortnite Festival. Fortnite Festival is a great game, and I have nothing against Harmonix or Epic for making the smart business move to fully support the game that prints money, but knowing that Rock Band's death was rushed so they can just move on to working on Festival hurts. It hurts a lot. Rock Band's a series that has been with me for over half of my life. It's shaped my music taste like nothing else has, except for maybe Grand Theft Auto, and with it, I've created so many happy, wonderful memories, alone or with friends and family, that'll stick with me till the day I die, and maybe even after. And the fact that its blood is on and in Harmonix's newest endeavor really puts a blemish on the game that'll likely take a while for a man-child like me to get over. But if Harmonix could get over the loss of their baby, then so can I. Will I fully move on to Festival? It's uncertain. Likely not. Will I keep playing Rock Band 3 and 4? Buying DLC on occasion and playing with or without friends? You know the answer to that. And with that, Rock Band has once again been put to rest. At least for the time being. And not only has the series been put to rest, but this iceberg as well. Also for the time being, let me explain, due to its huge length, I made the very difficult decision to cut this into 2 parts, this one obviously being the first. I know it's disappointing, we gotta wait a little while longer until we see the rest of this iceberg, but this will give me more time to research, revise, and of course voice and edit this video so that I can ensure the second part will be just as good as the first. And looking at the entries, maybe even better. We're going deeper, which means things will be getting a bit more insane. How insane? Well, here's a peek at some of them. Okay, that's all you're getting. Okay. It's been an absolute pleasure talking your ear off for this long about one of my hyperfixations, but we always gotta say goodbye at some point, right? And this is it. My name is Wolfter97. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me talk about this iceberg. I hope you have a great rest of your day, afternoon, evening, night, morning, whatever it is in your neck of the woods. I hope it's a good one. No, I hope it's a great one. See you next time. So I'm recording this at least maybe a week or so after I finished like a grand majority of the editing for this video. Like for right now, what I'm mainly doing is just doing some small tweaks here and there, and of course recording this because I wanted to thank my members. This is my first ever real big like YouTuber video, and you know, there's been some people that stuck with me for a while, and I have to thank them because, you know, I honestly never expected that there'd be people with such dedication that they'd want to support me in such a manner. And I have to thank my members, and I have 2 members right here, and they are both a part of the Wolf Pack, which is the 2nd tier. Let me start by thanking Nico, who's been a member for 12 months. 12 months, a whole year. Thank you so much. And you're not the only one who's been a member for a year, because we have Dorky Denny right here, who has also been a member for 12 months. Dude, what's going on, man? Is there something you need to talk about? Is there something wrong? Something in the head? No, I'm just kidding. Seriously, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. It means the world to me that people are willing to support me like this because, I never would expect that anyone would ever want to. And with the second part of this, I will definitely, hopefully, maybe potentially have more people to thank. So if you want to be on this list for the next part of the iceberg, you know what you got to do. Anyways, as I'm recording this, I currently have COVID, and I still have to edit all of this, so I'm going to cut it short right here. Thank you all for watching again. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye! Oh, this is like a second ending to this, because I, ended it earlier. Whoa, whatever.